CNN-FN, the financial network.
Well, while more Americans are connecting to the internet, we don't seem to be spending more time actually online. At least that's what the latest survey by Nielsen Net Ratings suggests. Does that mean people just aren't interested in online content? Let's ask T.S. Kelly. He's Director of Internet Media Strategy at Nielsen Net Ratings. And T.S., welcome. Before we go into the first part of your survey of how much we're getting connected, it's interesting that as more and more people get these internet connections, they're not using them as much. Why is that?
Well, we're seeing an emergence of perhaps another relationship between online and offline consumption. But what you're seeing right now is that the growth of the internet, roughly about 15% in the last 6 months, has come from a new breed of user. Initially, we had, again, it's about 147 million users this month. It's about 15% more since March. But where are they coming from? They're coming from the proliferation of those entry-level PCs, from free internet services and low cost, and they're not using and they're not behaving online the same way, say, the early adopters were, say, several years ago.
So does that mean some of the projections for internet usage and online shopping are perhaps overblown?
Well, I wouldn't say that. You still have a core user that's going to go on and do what they've been doing for the last several years. What I think is interesting is that there's a transition going on where, especially with the large media companies, they're beginning to distribute their content online in a much more sophisticated way, where just like with Big Brother and Survivor, they're executing their content both online and offline in a concurrent way, almost the first step towards interactivity.
How much is the issue that we don't have really the necessary broadband to make the internet experience really interactive to a certain degree important in this issue?
Well, if you look at it, the media companies right now are pretty much taking a toe-in-the-water approach to this, because Fox recently had streamed the Nebraska Cornhuskers game exclusively online. Viacom obviously doing a lot of different activities. Also, Disney, if you think about what they do with ESPN, where there's online polling, you can track scores and stats while you're watching the game. So a lot of this concurrent activity, they're distributing content in the traditional channels, but also online. So yes, they recognize that there's only about, say, 90% of all internet users still on that 56K speed limit, but that high speed is still growing significantly.
How fast is broadband growing? And the new adapters, are they more likely to get broadband, or is it usually the old users that will upgrade?
Yeah, what we're seeing right now is actually the 56K audience growing significantly at the expense of some of those slower ones. So you see they're buying the newer PCs with those faster modems. They're also hooking up with Blue Light and many other different companies that are offering low-cost or free internet access. And we're seeing that those folks aren't spending as much time, say, as the broadband users. And the broadband users are coming from pretty much that early adopter stage, with 18 to 49 male, those high-income, high-educated. So we're going through that second stage with those folks, and they're the ones that are accessing a lot of that video and audio online that everybody keeps talking about.
What about penetration, in the sense that most people who have PCs, can afford PCs, probably have them. Most people that have PCs probably have internet connections. Do we have a lot more room to go in penetration?
Well, I really think it comes down to how the broadband environment will grow over the next several years. We've seen a lot of projections, kind of pie-in-the-sky approach, but it's incrementally growing. We have right now about 10% of the active audience, which is roughly about 9 million people or so online, and they're on 4 or 5 times as much as some of the modem or narrowband users. So I think we're going to see significant incremental growth over the next several years. It's one of those things where as the growth evolves, content will evolve along with it. Just like CNN branded themselves in the early 80s, a lot of these Atom Films type companies are evolving and branding themselves for the first time as well.
Interesting. Thanks, T.S.